Welcome. My name is Stephen Forte, and my goal is to simplify the complexities of today's most influential business books and trends, then craft their key takeaways into brief and entertaining short films and blog posts. Peter Drucker's book, The Effective Executive, is one of the most influential business books of all time. So what are the key lessons? Well, the good news is you can teach yourself to become effective. Now, certainly, you can't manage others if you can't manage yourself. So, how do you accomplish this? Well, Drucker lays out 8 specific practices and 5 pivotal habits. In Part 1, I will describe Drucker's 8 practices that can help us become more effective. The first of his specific practices are to focus on what needs doing. Well, that may sound obvious, but what you need to do may be different than what you want to do. Tend only to 1 or 2 tasks at any particular time, and be sure to delegate to others. You may think multitasking is effective, but without focus, you will likely find your work product is less than stellar. The second principle is to make sure your actions benefit your organization. Ask yourself, am I doing the best thing for my enterprise or myself? The organization is what counts. Don't get distracted by stock price, employees, or other executives. You exist to add value and to better the company, and this is the ultimate measure of executive success. Drucker's third principle is to create an action plan. Knowledge, wisdom, and expertise are useless without action. However, action without a plan may be ineffective. Your action plan represents your intentions, not your commitments. Be ready for change, as business is full of obstacles and unpredictable challenges. But as they say in The Wizard of Oz, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there, so plan carefully. The fourth principle is to assume responsibility for your actions. Make sure your direct reports know the action plan and its detail, including deadlines. Be sure to assign accountability to your team. Don't leave them questioning your expectations or timelines. Some of the greatest frustration in business come from unclear instructions and expectations by management. Offer a laser focus and you'll be surprised how quickly your teams will align. The fifth principle is to communicate your plan to others. This includes your subordinates and superiors. Don't forget to manage up. Your boss may take as much care and feeding as your team. Everyone can assist if they understand where you're going. Drucker's sixth principle is to seek opportunity. View change as something to exploit, not as a threat. Don't let the daily problems control you. Use crisis and change to your advantage. The seventh principle is to make your meetings more productive. Meetings generally fall into 2 categories, and they're either very productive or complete time wasters. Choose them wisely. Be sure to enter the meeting with a clearly articulated vision of what a successful outcome looks like and share it with all of the participants. And finally, Drucker's 8th principle is to always think as we and not I. What is important to you may not necessarily be important to the organization. It is the company that matters. Your positive impact on the business is always the best barometer for an executive's success. Well, there you have it. Peter Drucker's The Effective Executive, Part 1. Catch more of my insights at stephenforte.com.
Strategy, execution, and people all go together. And if you don't get the people right, the strategy doesn't matter. And if you don't get the people right, you won't get the execution. So you're dead. So from my standpoint, strategy is sort of a purist thing. It's more academic. Execution and getting it done is what it's all about. But without question, that whole idea of winning and driving home what you're going to do and what you're not going to do, as Volvo decided before all of that they weren't going to be in cars. And they're focused now on buses and trucks and excavators. They can excel in that. And they were in a bad game in cars, but it takes a courageous management to get out of the car business. takes a lot of guts. That's a huge decision. And the fact that that company did it 10, 15 years ago is a tribute to the system.
It's very interesting. I was worth about over $1 million when I was 23, and over $10 million when I was 24, and over $100 million when I was 25. And it wasn't that important because I never did it for the money. I think money is a wonderful thing because it enables you to do things. It enables you to invest in ideas that don't have a short-term payback and things like that. But especially at that point in my life, it was not the most important thing. The most important thing was the company, the people, the products we were making, what we were going to enable people to do with these products. So I didn't think about it a great deal. You know, I never sold any stock. Just really believed that the company would do very well over the long term.
You know, there's this myth that people think they don't need a business plan. And oftentimes I find business owners who have an idea, a great one, and where they miss it is the execution. They don't go through the process of writing things down. Because anytime you can take pen to paper and write out your ideas and share them with other people and get feedback, which is essentially a business plan, you're going to do better. It could be a whiteboard in an office. It could be notes taken on your computer or in a journal. But I want it to start with something that says, here's what my product or service is. Here's how I'm going to attack the market. Here's how I'm going to beat the competition. Here's how I'm going to learn from my competitors. Here's what I'm going to take from my customers. And here's the kind of people I need to surround myself with. If you don't answer those questions, then really you're just kind of, it's like a dodgeball game. You're just going to go out there and wing it. And at some point, you're going to get whacked in the side of the head.
There is no such thing as complete control. Nothing. No one has complete control in any situation. People that leading organizations in some ways have less, because not only do they have to control what they do, they have to help persuade everyone else what they do. But, you know, if you are able to take responsibility, I'm not late because there was traffic. I'm late because I didn't leave early enough to account for the fact that there was traffic. The project didn't get finished not because my partner didn't do it, my colleague didn't do his part. The project didn't get finished because I didn't set up a team where my colleague wanted to do his part. When you take responsibility and you take full responsibility, that is the most empowering thing, and you can do it at any stage. You have to do it if you're raising money as an entrepreneur. You have to do it if you're trying to persuade people to work with you. You have to do it at all stages.
I think the most important thing about running a company is to remember all the time what a company is. A company is simply a group of people, and as a leader of people, you have to be a great listener, you have to be a great motivator, you have to be very good at praising and looking for the best in people. You know, people are no different from flowers. If you water flowers, they flourish. If you praise people, they flourish, and that's a critical attribute of a leader.
Now, the first thing we must do is deal with change and learn to accept the fact that things are changing fast. And so to illustrate how to handle change, I thought since I hadn't been here in 8 years, I would give you a little Amway history so you would see how we handled change. When Jay Van Andel and I started our first business, we started a flying school. Now, that was a change, but the important thing is that neither one of us knew how to fly. And so when you consider doing something new, you say, oh, I can't do it. I've never done this. But we didn't let our not flying stop us from starting. We just began and hired instructors and learned from them.
We all meet for 3 hours once a week, and we talk about everything we're doing, the whole business. And there's tremendous teamwork at the top of the company, which filters down to tremendous teamwork throughout the company. And teamwork is dependent on trusting the other folks to come through with their part without watching them all the time, but trusting that they're going to come through with their parts. And that's what we do really well. And we're great at figuring out how to divide things up into these great teams that we have and all work on the same thing, touch bases frequently, and bring it all together into a product. We do that really well. And so what I do all day is meet with teams of people and work on ideas and solve problems to make new products, to make new marketing programs, whatever it is.
And are people willing to tell you you're wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, other than snarky journalists. I mean, people that
Oh,
work
yeah. No, we have wonderful arguments.
for you. And do you win them all? Or?
Oh, no, I wish I did. No, see, you can't. If you want to hire great people and have them stay working for you, you have to let them make a lot of decisions, and you have to be run by ideas, not hierarchy.
And so some companies operate by, the product genius at the top, and we all know these companies and this whole motif of, to be a great CEO, you've got to be the great product person who really, and it's intoxicating and fun. But you're building incredible amounts of dependence on yourself. And eventually, how well I know how Turkish consumers consume Netflix is not that well. Mm-hmm. And so you're much stronger, obviously, building a distributed set of great thinkers. So, we look at it, we say we want to be like a Major League Baseball team. And, you've only got so many positions on the field. And if everyone is not incredible at what they do, then you're not going to win.
I recently read The Effective Executive by author Peter Drucker. When you think of an executive, you might think of a senior manager in a fancy business suit sitting in a big corporate office. But the title executive is not reserved for business leaders. An executive is anyone who decides how to use their time to get the best results. If you have any control over what you do with your time, you are an executive. But the big question is, are you an effective executive? An ineffective executive spends his or her time trying to do all the work that comes across his or her desk or inbox. But the effective executive is selective. The effective executive doesn't just do things well, they do the right things. And they do so by asking one question before doing any work. What contribution can I make? Author Peter Drucker, regarded as the best management thinker of the 20th century, says to focus on contribution is to focus on effectiveness. To contribute, you must find a way to be useful to the people that you serve. Maybe that's the team you work with, or maybe that's a customer segment you sell to, or maybe that's an audience you make YouTube videos for. If I focus on ensuring that this video contributes to your success by giving you concrete ways to manage your time, then making this video has been an effective use of my time. If you're a computer programmer and you want to be effective, it's not enough for you to write great code. You must write code that makes a contribution to your team's final application. At any moment, you can look around and find dozens of ways to contribute to the people in your life. But if you want to find your biggest contribution and thereby maximize your effectiveness, you must focus on the 2 contribution commandments: know thy strengths and know thy time. In 2011, a group of Toyota engineers wanted to make a significant contribution at a soup kitchen in Harlem. So instead of serving soup or donating money, which were contributions other people were already making, they decided to make a unique contribution by putting their strengths to work. The engineers used their Toyota process engineering expertise to overhaul the soup serving process. They found gaps in the way the kitchen delivered soup, implemented systems, and trained the volunteers. The result? Dinner wait time reduced from 90 minutes down to 18 minutes. When you find a way to make your strengths productive, you contribute at your highest level. But what if you don't know what your strengths are? Peter Drucker says the only way to discover your strengths is through feedback analysis. Feedback analysis is like running a science experiment on your career. The idea is to volunteer for new roles at work, at school, in your community, or for any organization that interests you. But before taking on any new role, you hypothesize your performance. You write down the list of responsibilities your new role has, and rate how you expect to perform in each of those responsibilities on a scale of 1 to 5. Then, 6 to 12 months later, go back to your expectations and find out if you perform better or worse than you thought you would. If you volunteered for a management position, were you better at creating plans and delegating tasks than you thought? Were you better at solving problems and making decisions under pressure than you thought? Or did you have far less patience than you thought and realize that to perform your best, you probably need to work solo and execute work on your own? Drucker says most people think they know what they're good at. They're usually wrong. And people who know what they're not good at are more often wrong than right. 7 years ago, I volunteered to give speeches at a local Toastmasters, but I didn't expect to be more than an average presenter. But after a few months, I was surprised at the rate in which I improved, and I was surprised at my ability to write and deliver speeches that held my audience's attention. Eventually, I won a few competitions and discovered a strength I didn't know I had. I've stuck with that strength, invested more time into building that strength, and that's why you're seeing this video on YouTube today. The more roles you volunteer for and the more feedback analysis that you do on yourself, the quicker you'll discover your key strengths. Strengths that allow you to have the greatest contribution possible. But to have a great contribution, you need time to put your strengths to work. Which brings us to the second contribution commandment, know thy time. When Drucker asked executives how they spent their time, he always got an inspiring answer. One chairman told Drucker that his work was split evenly between important discussions with his CEO, time with his best customers, and time organizing community functions. All work he deemed a great contribution to his company. But when Drucker got the executive to create a time log and record his work activities in real time, reality was less rosy. The chairman's time log revealed that nearly all the chairman's work time was spent doing petty things, like tracking new orders, which wasn't necessary, because that was someone else's job, and they could manage it just fine without him. Our memory of time is flawed. If we look back more than an hour, we'll fool ourselves and believe that we're far more effective than we really are. The only way to know thy time is to record how you use your time. To start recording how you spend your time, I recommend recording just 3 consecutive hours every workday. If you think you work best between 9 a.m. and noon, then set an alarm on your phone for 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and noon. When the alarm goes off, open a physical notebook near you or a note on a note-taking app on your phone and write down everything you can remember doing. Be as specific as possible and don't forget to include small distractions. For example, responded to a customer email about blank, responded to a text message from blank, organized my blank files, and wrote a draft for the blank report. After writing down your activities for each hour, write down how many minutes, approximately, that you spent doing work that hour that you feel was a unique contribution, work you think was useful and that leveraged your strengths. If you have the self-discipline to do this for 4 weeks, then at the end of the month, you'll get a time log statement, much like a credit card statement. When you review your time statement, you'll see, much to your surprise, how many worthless things you spent your time on. This is the point where the truly effective executive separates him or herself from most executives. Because the effective executive uses the time statement to make a stop doing list and an offload list. The effective executive populates a stop doing list by looking at his or her time statement and asking, which of these activities could I stop doing and no one would notice? And which of these activities made far less contribution than I expected? When an effective executive asks these questions, she notices common distractions, useless meetings, and urgent problems or great opportunities that could have been ignored. Drucker says, I have yet to see an executive, regardless of rank or station, who could not consign something like a quarter of the demands on his time to the waste paper basket without anybody's noticing their disappearance. The stop doing list contains a list of things that the effective executive will start politely turning down and systematically avoiding. After scanning the time statement to put things on the stop doing list, the effective executive populates the offload list with activities on the time statement that could be done by someone else just as good, if not better. Cleaning, running errands, updating spreadsheets, formatting documents, or any work that doesn't require strong judgment or creativity, typically finds its way onto the offload list. The stop doing list and the offload list are two lists that the effective executive values more than the to-do list. Because the effective executive knows that if she doesn't have the awareness, the courage, and the self-discipline to stop doing things that don't contribute and give away work other people can do just as good, if not better, then she won't have the time to do what she does best. To be an effective executive and have the greatest contribution possible, you must choose to spend your time doing what you do best and stop doing or give away all the rest. That was the core message that I gathered from The Effective Executive by Peter Drucker. This book is over 50 years old, and the time management principles in this book are more important today than they've ever been. I highly recommend it. If you would like a one-page PDF summary of insights that I gathered from this book, just click the link below and I'll be happy to email it to you. If you already subscribe to the free Productivity Game email newsletter, this PDF is sitting in your inbox. If you like this video, please share it. And as always, thanks for watching and have yourself a productive week.